Alright, today we are working on replacing this top LED brake light on a 2004 Nissan Armada. I am far from an expert, but I saw another guy on YouTube, so that's kind of like saying at a Holiday Inn Express. But I'm going to make an attempt at replacing this myself. The dealership wants $550 to do it, and so I thought, well, I'm going to give it a shot. So the part I got on eBay was about it was under $100. So the first thing we need to do is remove this piece of trim. I got this trim removal tool. From what I saw in the other video, there are some I guess grommets, you call them, up as we get farther in the process. That's kind of the difficult part, and they said you need one of these, so I figure I'll remove this piece of trim up here. As you can see, get a perspective that the gate is open here, and here's the piece I'm going to try to remove here in a second. So anyway, this was 10 bucks at AutoZone. From what I hear, you can get it significantly cheaper at Harbor Freight, but if I can save 400 bucks, it was worth not having to drive all the way out to Harbor Freight, which is a good ways from me. So here, I'm going to try to see what I can do to remove this piece of trim to get access. It's not going to be easy to do with one hand, so I may have to put the video down here. And got a good, and kind of popped out there. Felt it kind of pop on that end too. So yeah, seemed like the best success came from kind of starting in the middle, placing it under, and just kind of pulling. Got it kind of popped out well over here too. Yep. Okay. There we go. So now you can see where it comes in. This is the back, the washer fluid line. After making this entire video, I realized I didn't show how to disconnect the electrical, the little light gray on the top left there. It's just a flathead screwdriver on kind of the bottom right side. There's a little notch. Alright, so the next thing you need to do, as we're looking kind of at the back here, is remove this little nut from that bolt right there. And then there's the same one over here on the other side. These are 8mm, 5/16 if you need to use that in a pinch. So we'll remove those and then go on to the next step. All right, so the next step after removing those nuts and closing the back here, I popped the rear window open here, and you know, the next part is one of the more difficult parts, because there are little grommets, which I'll be able to show you a little closer later. And I wasn't quite sure where to start. In the other YouTube video I watched, the guy already had it done before he started the video. So I started right here on the corner. You can see it's kind of popped up right now. I started on the corner and just kind of said, all right, I'm gonna kind of take a risk with it, and I slowly kind of started to pry at the edge of this, and it did kind of eventually pop. And I honestly haven't discovered, it looks like the grommet is still intact. All right, so it looks like I have this thing popped up. This is literally only about 45 seconds after I stopped recording the last time. I had this edge right here where I just kind of gone in and taken the risk of popping it up, not knowing what would happen to the grommets. And then I literally just kind of went along, being really careful of the glass, because obviously you can bust your glass really quickly. And I just kind of lightly went across and pried, and then I got to a point where I realized I wasn't gonna be able to do much more, and I came over to this corner and kind of started from here. And again, there was no easing it out. It just, they popped out. So yeah. All right, I'm gonna keep on moving forward, see what happens. But it looks like all the grommets are intact, and as I learned in the last video, there is some two-sided tape that is sticking this top part all along this edge, so you don't want to rip too hard on that, because you want to keep that in place as you go. Okay, so the next step after popping this thing up out of the grommets is there are 2 bolts and nuts holding the actual light in. One is about right here on the other side, and the other is symmetrical to that on the other side of the light. From what I saw in the video, those should be 11 millimeter. So another hack I got from the guy on the video is kind of wedging this whole thing open, because you want to try to keep it a little bit consistent. So I just took a 2x4 and wedged it under this bracket piece that works that window up and down. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and see about removing these. Yeah, you just can't really see them, but you can feel them if you reach around the other side there. And so I got my 11 millimeter, trying to figure out how to do it without busting this piece of glass. So this is kind of how I'm doing this with my regular ratchet and socket here. All right, so kind of a tip, and here, there are those nuts. There's the 4 pieces that are going to come off. And a little pro tip here for you, for if you're a hack like me and you're losing things everywhere, always have like a magnetic. I have like a little tray that I keep things on, which is much better. I couldn't find it, so I just use this little picker-upper Johnny that when I make a mess in the garage with nails and screws, which I tend to do, being clumsy, always have one of those when you're working on a project, so you can just stick your stuff right to it and set it aside. Anyway, so those are the 11 millimeter that came off. Those are the 8 millimeter that held this whole thing in place secure. Okay, so moment of truth here in a second, but before we go to pull, well, we can go ahead and pull the light assembly out. There we go. And we can kind of let it hang. Success. There is another little rubber grommet here that is sealing up. You cannot even see this, it's so bright outside. There you go, a little closer look there. Nice and dirty in here, you gotta like that. So yeah, you just gotta pull this out. Another one comes with the whole assembly new that you purchased, which again, I'll show you here in just a second when I go to install it. So we're gonna remove this, and the cable should just come right out. I'll give you a view of this. I used my handy dandy tool again here to, I'm sorry, I'm shaking, to remove that, and should pull the whole deal out. There we go. All right, so there it is. Here's the old one. In a second here, you're gonna see the new one ready to be installed. All right, so here's the new unit I got off of eBay. You can see it has the rubber grommet on it and the connections you need for the light and for the washer fluid. Okay, so as you are installing this new piece, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is run the cables. I'm gonna see if I can do this with this back glass open, because I wanna be able to see, I don't know if you can see in there, but I want to be able to, let me set this down. I want to be able to see this hole where the cables go through, and also this one under here, because they have to go through both things, because this is where it hooks up. Okay, so I tried to do it once without the glass open, and it just kind of all got stuck up here in this space, and it didn't come through. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to do this, go down through the hole and then down through this bigger hole. So the circle hole and then this kind of rectangular kind of hole. I'm gonna have to do that without the camera, and then here, I'll set the camera down to see if I can maybe get it. To get everything in place up here, I can go ahead and close this glass, and then I'll open it back up here in a second to hook up the electrical. Go ahead and pick this back up, and then we're gonna have a moment of truth here in a real quick second. So this will obviously hook to here, and this will hook to there, in just a minute. Actually, it looks like I removed the wrong piece. I can go ahead and remove this because this white little nipple here will go on this cable, so hopefully we can make that fit well. I'm gonna hook up the electrical and give it a check. I'll let you know how it goes. Here I pop the stems back down onto the grommets, as you can see, using my fist, and it worked all along the top. I haven't even done the screws yet that really hold it in tight, and it seems like everything's in decent shape. You have to make sure the screws line up. Hold on, I'll show you where that is again. These little, I'm sorry, not screws. The bolts here. You have to make sure these bolts lined up in here with these holes, okay? And so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put those back on. Then it's a matter of putting the trim piece back on. Also, you know, always make sure you get these cables back in, any kind of thing that holds them where they need to stay. Like so. All right, you can see the washer line hooked up there. This is plugged back in right here, the power for the light. And again, I'm gonna put these nuts back on these bolts and then put this trim piece back on, and it'll be job done. All right, so one of the easier pieces upon taking things apart was one of the more difficult to get back in, and that's because there's this rubber material that kind of seals things up, and so putting it back in, it kind of resisted. So I was able to kind of pop the little pieces back in, and then I had to kind of go through with that grommet tool and peel under and get all this to come back around. Sorry it's such a sunny day, made the exposure really difficult on the iPhone camera, but I hope this helped. Yeah, so y'all have good luck. Be careful with the grommets so you don't break them when you go to take that top piece off. But besides that, hope y'all are able to save $400, $450 the way I just did. Literally under an hour, including trying to make this video and making errors. And I am by no means good with working on cars. So there it is. And I have proof that it works. Here, I'll try to set the phone down. I'll go hit the brake and try to show you it works. Here we go.